What's up, y'all? Proverbs 13, right? A wise child accepts a parent's discipline. A mocker refuses to listen to correction. Wise words will win you a good meal, but treacherous people have an appetite for violence. Those who control their tongue will have a long life. Opening your mouth can ruin everything. Lazy people want much but get little. Those who work hard will prosper. The godly hate lies. The wicked cause shame and disgrace. Godliness guards the path of the blameless, but the evil are misled by sin. Some who are poor pretend to be rich. Others who are rich pretend to be poor. The rich can pay a ransom for their lives, but the poor won't even get threatened. The life of the godly is full of light and joy, but the light of the wicked will be snuffed out. Pride leads to conflict. Those who take advice are wise. Wealth from get-rich-quick schemes quickly disappears. Wealth from hard work grows over time. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a dream fulfilled is a tree of life. People who despise advice are asking for trouble. Those who respect a command will succeed. The instruction of the wise is like a life-giving fountain. Those who accept it avoid the snares of death. A person with good sense is respected. A treacherous person is headed for destruction. Wise people think before they act. Fools don't, and even brag about their foolishness. An unreliable messenger stumbles into trouble, but a reliable messenger brings healing. If you ignore criticism, you will end in poverty and disgrace. If you accept correction, you will be honored. It is pleasant to see dreams come true, but fools refuse to turn from evil to attain them. Walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get in trouble. Trouble chases sinners, while blessings reward the righteous. Good people leave an inheritance to their grandchildren, but the sinner's wealth passes to the godly. A poor person's farm may produce much food, but injustice sweeps it all away. Those who spare the rod of discipline hate their children. Those who love their children care enough to discipline them. The godly eat to their heart's content, but the belly of the wicked goes hungry. So let's see. It says the rich can pay a ransom for their lives, but the poor won't even get threatened. Something that kind of comes to mind a little bit is whenever you accept Jesus, right? And you try to live by Him, you kind of become rich in that grace and mercy and stuff like that, right? I don't think this verse is just talking about monetary wealth, because we're all involved in spiritual warfare, right? And why would the enemy take somebody who's not a threat at all and threaten them, right? He's going to ignore you to go after the ones that are a threat to the kingdom of darkness. But for the people who are a threat to the kingdom of darkness, their ransom's already been paid, and it wasn't with their lives, it was with Jesus whenever He died. And He died for everybody, and that includes that person that you don't particularly like, right? Going back to Romans 8, there's a verse in there that talks about how basically no power in hell, no scheme of man, nothing in the heavens or on the earth can separate you from God's love. So it doesn't matter if you like Him or not. Jesus decided to die for them too. Because if you don't like Him, congratulations, there's somebody out there that don't like you, right? And probably thinks the same thing about you. So I think whenever it talks about that verse right there, where the rich can pay a ransom for their lives, it's not talking about just earthly monetary money, right? And let's see, and how the poor won't even get threatened if you're, super, I guess kind of poor in the things that matter, right? Kind of by choice. And why would Satan even go after you? Why would he threaten you? Why would he, demonically oppress you or wage spiritual warfare to somebody who's not a threat, right? Yeah. Could go on that one, off on that one for a while, I think. Let's see. What else we got? Wise people think before they act, and fools don't. They even brag about their foolishness, right? For a while there, kind of had some anger issues after being active duty for a while, right? Still got them a little bit, but they're a whole lot better than they were, thankfully, right? That's something that I've had to pray on and put some effort into, because it used to be something would happen and just lash out, right? And it never really ended well, being honest with you. And I don't think I'm definitely a wise person. I definitely ain't, right? I think I got more in common with the fool reading through Proverbs than the wise person, right? But hey, thankfully this ain't the end of it all. Still breathing. But I think too that this can kind of be applied to like your testimony, right? When wise people think before they act, if you are trying to operate wisely and righteously, right? There's plenty of instances in the Bible, in the Old Testament and New Testament, where people ask the wrong question to God, or they question God himself, and they kind of get smoked for it, right? I think because it's more of them questioning his authority than his ability to do. Whereas even Jesus in the New Testament, whenever somebody asked him a question, or I think it was a servant to the Pharisees or something like that, asked him a question, he was actually like, hey, good question, here's the answer, right? We're in the Old Testament sometimes where, judges or Abraham or Isaac or Jacob or Joseph or people like that, where the question, it wasn't a question on whether God could do it, it was a question of like, hey, what do I need to do to be a part of this, right? I think that ties into the wise people think before they act, whereas the fools don't, right? They even brag about their foolishness. This kind of tying into testimony some. There's a thing I heard from Pastor John Lovell. If you never listened to his stuff, it's a whole lot better than mine, right? But he was talking about how you can kind of turn up your BS meter some for a false testimony, right? For people who trying to look religious even though they're not, which actually just read in like Matthew chapter 23, right? Goes into all of that. But your testimony should be a whole lot less like, look what I've done for me, right? And look what I'm doing for God. And it should be a whole lot more of, look what God has delivered me from, right? And it doesn't, and you give enough context, I think, that you can, people can get the picture of what you were delivered from, right? And there might even be some times in giving your testimony where it makes sense to be a little bit more explicit. But for the most part, you shouldn't be bragging about the sin that you used to live in, right? And that's something that hit me a little bit. For how much I used to be able to, sorry mom, sorry dad, but how much I used to be able to drink whenever I was active. Not anymore though, right? No thanks, I ain't doing that again. But it used to be kind of like a source of pride, like how many 12 packs somebody could throw back, or 6 packs or something like that. Since being saved and kind of being convicted of it, it's like I really don't want to find myself doing that anymore, right? I don't want to brag about what I used to be able to do because it doesn't serve any purpose now, right? It doesn't matter. Let's see. Walk with the wise and become wise, and associate with fools and get in trouble. Who you surround yourself with plays a big role, right? A lot of people are products of their environment, so you want to put yourself in an environment and surround yourself with people for the right reasons, that are doing the right thing. Even looking at the New Testament, right, in Jesus' life, there's plenty of examples where there was a guy who was paralyzed and he couldn't walk, right? His friends were so desperate to get him to Jesus that they cut a hole in the roof and lowered him down on a stretcher in front of Jesus because the crowd was so big around the house. They made a way, right? His friends didn't abandon him. They went up and beyond of not only causing some minor property damage, right, but probably repairing it afterwards. Because it was worth, probably getting in trouble. It was worth getting their friend to Jesus, and they had that much faith that, we might get a little bit in trouble with the property owner, for cutting a hole in his roof. But it'll be worth it because a friend will walk, and who knows, maybe one of his first acts after, dancing and praising Jesus was to help fix the hole that he helped make. So be careful who you surround yourself with, right? I'm not saying that you got to surround yourself with nothing but preachers or anything like that, right? In fact, I would almost discourage that. You should have some people in your friends that you can be a witness to and encourage and things like that, right? But that being said, just be careful who you hang out with whenever it comes to the stuff that's real. Let's see. Those who spare the rod of discipline hate their children, and those who love their children care enough to discipline them. It doesn't mean that you beat your kids with a rod, right? By far, you don't abuse your kids, right? In fact, there's a whole, section in the Bible and verses and stuff like that on what happens if you do abuse kids, and it ain't good, right? So you don't abuse them, but you discipline them, right? You teach them discipline. You teach them to consistently be at the intersection of consistent integrity, I guess, and doing the right thing. And learning discipleship in the things that matter, right? Kingdom of Heaven being number one. After that, being a husband, being a father, being a mother, being a wife, brother, sister, stuff like that. And then maybe a career field or sports or whatever it is. After that point, kind of who cares, right? And you can kind of see how it says that those who spare the rod hate their children. And I think that's pretty obvious, to be honest with you. Just get on any social media app for longer than 5 minutes, and you'll find some man baby or some, woman or whatever it is that physically is absolutely fully actualized, man or woman or whatever it is. But mentally, they can't handle any kind of stress whatsoever. Right? The whole world owes them something. It's always everybody else's fault. It's never my fault. I'm perfect. There's nothing you can do. You owe me this. You owe me that. Right? And they don't lift a finger to help themselves. Which again, I already read about it some. We'll read about it more. Right? We're going through Proverbs when it talks about the fool. That's exactly how they act. Right? And I think that those people straight up do kind of hate their children some because you don't prepare them for the world at all, right? Personal opinion, as a dad of two, right, and they're still young, so it's not like I've had to deal with teenagers or anything like that, right? But at least the plan, right, for as much as things go according to plan, is one of those, hey, model the correct thing, teach them the correct thing, and then give them the freedom to make mistakes, so that whenever there are consequences for messing up, it happens while it's under your roof, and you can help mitigate the consequences, and they can learn the lesson from it, hopefully, before they're out in the real world where there's, judges and juries and the court of public opinion and all that kind of stuff, right? Like, there's a lot of things that nobody really wants to do, but you have to learn how to do it. To teach kids that. But anyways, some of this is probably fairly incoherent rambling, but appreciate y'all's patience. Take it easy.